Good morning, everyone. So, again, welcome to our subject. And for today, we are about to discuss IES number 34 entitled Interim Financial Reporting. Okay, so this is your instructor, Noel Bergonia, and let's start our discussion. Okay, so just sit back, relax, okay, take down notes, and if you have questions, please let me know. Okay? Sige po, let's start with the discussion by knowing ano nga ba yung objective nitong IAS number 34. Okay? So this standard is actually to prescribe minimum contents of interim financial reports. So later we will be discussing what interim financial reports are, no? And also it prescribes yung mga principles of recognition and measurement, okay, of the interim financial reports, which will be later talking about complete set or condensed set of financial statements for the interim periods. Okay. So also, the use of a timely and reliable na interim financial reports will help the users natin of the financial information to be able to improve their decision capability. Okay, because it will give them a more timely, okay, and reliable information, which is also, of course, we can get it as well doon sa diniscuss natin in the complete set of financial statements, no? But there would be just different small differences, with regards to the whole year or the annual reporting period discussed in the presentation of financial statements and the interim financial reporting. Okay. Now, let's discuss ano ba itong interim financial reports na to. Okay? So when we talk about interim financial reports, this refers to the financial reports, which is either the complete set of financial statements which we have discussed in IAS number 1. Okay, yun yung mga statement of financial position, statement of comprehensive income, the statement of cash flows, the changes in owner's equity, as well as the whole and complete set of notes to financial statements. Okay, and of course, interim financial reports would be a set of condensed financial statements for an interim period. Okay, mamaya we will be talking about condensed set of financial statements, but in general, a condensed set is just getting whatever are the information in the annual then, okay, but it is more on in a particular interim period lang compared with the complete set that it might be in the whole year, diba, na financial statements, okay, or in annual perspective. Okay. Moreover, interim financial reports are financial statements that are covering period less than, okay, a full financial year. So it's lower than the annual. Of course, it could be monthly, which is the usual minimum. Okay. Then we have quarterly, which is covering 3 months. And then we have also semi-annual. Okay. So those are somehow the period coverage of our interim financial reports. Okay, so the purpose of this is also again to provide financial information to the users, okay, in a timely manner that they could use in their decision making. Okay. In addition, this interim financial reports will yield significant information concerning the trends affecting the business, okay, and also seasonality effect that would be obscured in the annual reports. Kasi kung annual reports, kung napapansin nyo po, it's already the totality of all of the months of or all of the quarters in a year. Sometimes yung trend, okay, in a particular year, maybe it's hard to determine, but through the use of interim financial reports, we would see some sort of, let's say for example, seasonality effect, diba? Let's say you are in a garment industry na ginagamit during summer. Okay, so we will expect that in the interim reports of those times during the summer, mag-shoot up yung sales natin, and of course it will follow for the other accounts, diba? So ayan, we could see the trend here, comparing it with the annual view na makikita mo lang siya ng isahang amount, for the annual lang. Okay, but of course again, the use of interim financial reports, okay, does not compromise the annual reporting. Okay, so moreover, each of the financial reports, whether it's annual based on IS number 1 or even interim reports, are evaluated on its own, for conformity with IFRS. Remember guys that our financial statements that our financial statements needs to conform with our IFRS, 'di ba? Nabanggit na natin 'yan sa IAS number 1. There should be conformity with the IFRS. Moreover, okay, the fact that an entity may not have provided interim financial reports during a financial year or even provided an interim financial report. So nag-provide man siya or hindi ng interim financial reports, okay, it does not prevent the entity's annual financial statements to conform with the IFRS. Okay, ayun, nakulangan ako no. Do not comply with the standard. So if the financial statements interim that they have released or hindi man sila nag-release, that does not comply with the standard, no, does not prevent the annual entity to comply with the IFRS. Okay, overall, no, lahat whether annual or interim, it at its own, no, be evaluated in conformity to the related IFRS. Okay? So yan po yung ating definition ng interim financial reports. So in general, interim financial reports or financial statements are those financial statements that were being produced, no, okay, in a period less than 1 year, okay, and it is used by the users, no, for a um, more timely and ano ba yung isang word kanina, reliable, no, na interim financial decisions. Okay? So ayan. Now let's proceed with who and when, no, this interim financial reports, okay, are being prepared, and who are those people or companies that are mandated to report this. So in the standard itself of IAS number 34, no, it does not mandate entities to publish. So hindi po enforced itong or required itong interim financial statements as per IAS number 34, no. They are not mandated or required to publish interim financial reports or even the frequency. Kung magre-report man, no, walang established frequency in the standard or how soon after the end of the interim period kailangan nating i-publish yon. Okay, so sa standard malinaw, wala po tayong indicated na mandate, no? Okay, or required na i-present yung ating interim financial reports. But of course, the International Accounting Standards Committee, which is the old governing body, no, IASB na po yan ngayon, okay, encourages publicly traded entities. Okay, encourage lang naman, it's not required, 'di ba? Magkaiba 'yon. Pag required, push na push talaga. Pag encourage, no, it could be done by the company or not. Okay? So the publicly listed entities to provide interim financial reports that confirms with the recognition, measurement, and disclosure principles that we will be discussing later. Okay? So if publicly traded, no, are being encouraged in accordance to the standard, they need to provide the financial reports at least at the end of the first half of their financial year. Okay? Or end to make interim financial reports available not later than 60 days after the end of interim period. So ayun po. Okay, they are encouraged to present their financial statements for the publicly traded industries or entities, no, okay, for the first half of their financial year, and that report needs to be available not later than 60 days after the end of the interim report or interim period. Okay? So yan po yung as per standard, no? Na we are not mandated, we are not required, okay, but we are just being encouraged, no, by the IASC and IASB to publish, okay, especially for the publicly traded industries or entities, no, our interim financial reports. Okay, but also in accordance with the standard, no, it depends upon the local securities and exchange commissions, okay, of the country, okay, where they are located, no, for the presentation of the interim, no. Baka kasi may mga requirements specific for a country, okay, that they need to publish interim financial reports. So ayun po, no, they need to publish kasi required ng kanilang local SEC. Okay, now paano po sa Philippine settings? Okay, kasi sabi sa standard, 'di ba, wala po tayong required or hindi po tayo required na mag-publish. So, paano po in the Philippine settings? So, in our local SEC or Securities and Exchange Commissions and the Philippine Stock Exchange, no, requires, so ito, nire-required pala siya, but it is for the SEC and PSE's requirement, no, not specifically coming from the standard, that the companies, no, needs to submit a quarterly report on SEC Form 17Q. So later, no, you can search, or right now you can search this SEC Form 17Q, okay, of various companies, kasi I have seen some in the internet already. Okay, that and even mamaya ipapakita ko rin po sa inyo yung ilang parts ng 17Q, no, that they are publishing quarterly reports, okay, which they need to publish, no, 45 days after the end of each of the first three quarters of the financial year. Okay? So yun po yung local requirement natin, no? To submit quarterly reports using 17Q, okay? And it needs to be published 45 days after the end of each first three quarters of each financial year. Actually, that's based on the SRC rule number 17. Remember, in our previous discussion, we have SRC rule number 68. Okay, ngayon naman, SRC rule number 17. Okay? So I hope that that's clear, ha, na sa standard, no, first half of each financial year, okay, and it needs to be submitted, okay, within 60 days. Ito naman sa Philippine settings, sa SEC requirements natin and PSE, okay, so they need to submit, no, quarterly reports within 45 days after the end of each first three quarters. Okay? So again, if you do have questions, please let me know lang po on our respective chat boxes. All right? So I hope that you're still there, ha? Okay? Sige, so let's now proceed with the contents of the interim financial reports. So kanina, in our definition of the interim financial reports, it stated there that our financial reports is either consists of the complete set of financial statements, which is in accordance with IAS number 1, or the set of condensed financial statement for the interim period. Okay? So now let's talk about the condensed set. So ito po yung condensed set, no? Kasi yung annual natin or the complete set, we have already discussed that in the video lecture about presentation of financial statements. Okay? So for the condensed set, no, it includes at a minimum yung condensed statement of financial position, condensed statement of profit or loss and other comprehensive income, even condensed statement of changes in equity, condensed statement of cash flows, and ito po, no, selected explanatory notes lang po, no. So we are not going to prepare, no, the complete set of explanatory notes, no. Pili lang kasi later we will have to discuss some of the selected na explanatory note that we want to see in an interim financial report. Okay, sir, ang pinagkaiba lang nila condensed to, yun complete. Okay, kasi yung period coverage nila, di ba, sa complete set it would be annual at a minimum, pero sa condensed set natin, okay, it could be less than a year, yung quarterly, monthly, or semi-annual. Okay? So ngayon, discuss natin isa-isa later yung ating mga condensed financial statements. Okay? So this condensed financial statements at a minimum, no, should have a heading and subtotals that were included in the most recent annual financial statements and the selected explanatory notes as mentioned to you kanina. Now, in the statement, okay, that presents the components of profit or loss for the interim period, okay, an entity shall present basic and diluted earnings per share for the period when the entity naputol ata. For that period when the entity, wait lang, let me check. Ayan. So going back, no, when the entity is within the scope of IAS number 33, earnings per share. So kung magtatanong kayo, ano po yung basic and diluted earnings per share? So first, no, it will be discussed to you in the updates in accounting standard. And second, this basic and diluted earnings per share represents the peso earning, no, per ordinary share. Okay, so magko-compute kayo dyan, no, na how much is the earning attributed to an ordinary share. Okay, so may pinagkaiba po yung basic at saka diluted. So ang point lang natin being dito sa interim financial report, so whenever you're going to present for the basic and diluted earnings per share na in accordance with IAS number 33, okay, so it shall present it in line with the profit or loss, no, for the interim periods po natin. Okay? And also, if the interim financial report that we are providing, no, are on consolidated basis, no, it should be based on the most recent annual financial statement where it is being consolidated. So remember, in our conceptual framework discussion, consolidated financial statements are those financial statements that were being produced, no, if there is a parent and subsidiary relationship. Okay? So ayan po yung mga some guidelines, no, and also we will be discussing later yung sinasabi po natin na explanatory notes. Okay? So now let's proceed with yung condensed set, no? Paano siya nagkaiba with the annual? Okay, so here is the condensed statement of financial position. So pag sinabi po natin condensed set of statement of financial position, no? Remember guys, in our discussion of IS number 1, we need to provide for comparable financial statements. So ganun din po dito sa interim reporting. We need to provide for a comparable financial report, no? Whether it's interim or year to date. Okay, so tignan po natin. So the statement of financial position as of the end of the current interim period, so kung ano po yung ginagawaan mong interim period, and a comparative statement of financial position as of the end of the preceding financial year. So if it is a balance sheet or statement of financial position, ang sabi po, no, na dapat i-present mo is kung ano po yung current na interim period, and then compare it with the most recent, no, na end of the preceding year na financial position. Okay, so to explain that, ito po, no, I'm showing you right now an example coming from San Miguel Corporation and its subsidiaries. So this is a consolidated financial position of San Miguel Corporation. Okay, so as you can see guys, no, unaudited pa yung 2020 kasi they are not auditing naman usually for interim periods. Okay, so the 2019 is the audited, which means that that is the sinasabi natin kanina na end of the preceding financial year. Okay, so as you can see in the header, dito po yung comparison, yung ating end of the current period, interim period is March 31. Okay, so yun po yung end of the current interim period. Then, the most recent preceding year is the December 31, 2019. Okay, so ganyan po palagi if it is a condensed statement of financial position, no? The end of the current interim period, no? Comparing it with the most recent na year end. Okay? So hindi nyo pwedeng gawin yung statement of financial position na March 31, 2020 and then compared it with the March 31, 2019. No, it's not allowed. Kasi as per IS number 34, okay, it should be the current interim period, the end of it, no, and the most recent immediately preceding financial year. Okay? So are we clear on that guys? Kasi 'di ba ang ating statement of financial position is continuous naman yung balance natin. So we want to describe, no, what is the increase, no, from that year and compared it with this March 31 based on example. Okay, so are we clear on that? By the way, this Annex A is coming from their reported SEC 17Q, okay, in the year 2020, no, March 31. Okay, so are we clear on that? All right, very good. Again, if you have questions, please let me know. Okay. So next would be the statement of profit or loss and other comprehensive income. Okay, so or technically the statement of comprehensive income. So what we are going to describe here, okay, as a condensed set is that we are going to prepare a statement of profit or loss and other comprehensive income, okay, for the current interim period, no, cumulatively for the current financial year to date. So ibig sabihin kung you are starting January, so you will have January 1, no, up to the current interim date. Okay, dito sa example natin, March 31 daw. So January 1 up to March 31, 2020. Okay, cumulative yung value. Okay, yung gagawin mong statement of comprehensive income. Then, sabi po, it should be comparative with the statement of profit or loss and other comprehensive income for the interim period, no, um, of the immediately preceding financial year. So, unlike with the statement of financial position that we are about to use as point of reference kanina is the ending of the year, no? Dito po sa statement of profit or loss, you will compare it with the same period last year, no? Not necessarily December 31. So, as you can see, the comparison here is March 31, 2020 and the March 31, 2029. So, ang coverage reporting natin for the year to date is comparing January 1 to March 31, 2020 and January 1 to March 31, 2021. Okay? Ay, 2021 tuloy, sorry. 2019 pala yung preceding year. Okay? So 2019. So ganyan po yung comparison natin. Okay, for the comparative financial statements. And as you can see, it's unaudited kasi 'di ba parehas silang unaudited as of March 31. Okay, compared with the kaninang statement of financial position that the 2019 balance is audited since that's an ending balance. Okay, so are we clear on that? So again, for the statement of profit or loss and other comprehensive income, no, it would be cumulatively for the current financial year to date. Okay, year to date po yun. So the start of the year up to the end of that interim period. Okay, comparing it also with the same interim period, the current year to date of the previously or immediately preceding period. Okay. So, any questions guys or clarifications? By the way, ito lang nilagay ko dito is consolidated net income ha. Mahaba kasi yung kanilang statement of comprehensive income per se. Okay? Sige, so even ito pala yung binanggit ko kanina na basic and diluted earnings per share. Okay, so it was being presented here based on the interim results. Okay? So next would be the statement of changes in equity. Okay, similar to the statement of profit or loss kanina, no, our comparison would be the cumulative for the current financial year to date, okay, and also comparable year to date, okay, of the immediately preceding financial year. So, since this is March 31, 2020 and 2019, so ibig sabihin ulit yung coverage period niyan, comparison is January 1 up to March 31, 2020, okay, at saka January 1 up to March 31, okay, 2019. Okay? So talagang balance sheet lang yung naiba, no? So again, this is just like the annual wherein, 'di ba, you have the period. Ito pala, January 1 up to um, March 31. Okay, I hope that you are appreciating our example. Okay. So nandito yung mga changes niya, okay? Which some of it you will just study it in your next accounting subjects or next na mga intermediate accounting subjects, no? And also January 1, 2019 up to March 31, 2019. Okay? So again, it's cumulative current year to date, no? And the comparable year to date of the immediately preceding period. Okay? Lastly, no, in terms of the financial statements, kasi mamaya notes na po tayo, we have the condensed set of statement of cash flows. Okay, so pare-parehas na po ito, no, from the profit or loss, statement of changes, no. In the statement of cash flows, it is also for the current financial year to date and comparable financial year to date, no, of the immediately preceding financial year. So as you can see, no, it's March 31 ulit 2020 up to comparing it with March 31, 2019, no, wherein kanina January up to March, okay, yung period covered po natin. Okay? So yan yung naging dahilan kung bakit siya naging condensed set, no? So the period involved is not necessarily the complete set, which is 1 year, okay, but it's more on only covering the interim period na meron po tayo. Okay? So are we clear on that? All right, very good. So, ayan ha, kung napansin niyo sa apat na financial statements na pine-prepare natin, no, only the balance sheet is different na ang kino-compare is the current year to date and the um, comparable preceding end of the year, okay, na report. Itong mga ito, income statement, cash flows at saka changes in equity, comparable year to date lang din sila, no? Not necessarily the year end. Okay. So now, considering that this is an interim period, there are also some significant events and transactions. And how do we account for it in accordance with IS 34? Ang sabi doon, no, an entity shall include, okay, in its interim financial reports, no, an explanation of the events and transactions that are significant to the understanding, okay, of the changes in the financial positions at saka yung performance of the entity since the end of the last annual reporting period. So this is more on the consideration of the notes na, no, explanatory notes. So we need to provide for significant events that happens during that interim period in our notes to financial statements. Okay, so moreover, take note guys that the users of this interim financial reports, okay, needs to have an access to the most recent annual financial report of the entity. Okay, so dapat may access sila dun sa most recent annual report so that they will know, no, its comparison as well, no, with regards to the annual reports. Okay, sabi yan sa IS 34, no, that they should have an access to the most recent annual financial report. Therefore, no, it is unnecessary, okay, for the notes for the interim report na mag-provide pa ng relatively insignificant updates to information that was reported in the most recent annual financial reports. So yun lang naman yung pinopoint dito, no, na since the users will have an access to the most recent annual financial report ng company, okay, so lahat ng insignificant, okay, maybe, no, not already put into the notes of the interim financial reports. Kaya nga kanina in the first bullet, as you have noticed, no, significant events, no, yung lalagay natin explanations for the transactions in the current interim period, no. So, but if it is necessary for the users, no, to be used in understanding, then let's put that, okay. Pero yung mga insignificant naman or immaterial, then let us try not to put them already. Sabi po dito sa last bullet, no, it is unnecessary. Okay. So now, let's see ano po yung mga examples of the selected explanatory notes that we are about to expect in our statements, no, for the interim financial period. Okay, so here are just some list of events and transactions that required in disclosures, no, if they are significant. First are the write-down of inventories to net realizable values or reversal. So in your discussion of inventories, diba? So there would be a write-down from the costs to net realizable value in accordance with IAS number 2. Moreover, some impairment losses and reversals, no? We have various impairment losses on financial assets and even in property, plant, and equipment and non-financial assets. Okay, reversal of provision for restructuring costs, acquisitions and disposals ng PPE as well as purchase commitments, okay, mga litigation settlements, correction of prior period errors. Now we need to explain that as well here, but take note that the corrections will happen also in the face of the financial statement, diba? In accordance with IS number 1. Also, some business and economic circumstances that affects yung fair values. Okay, so kasi there would be assets or financial assets that will be reported at fair value. So we need to, of course, consider the business and economic circumstances explanation in our notes. Okay, also some unremedied loan default or even breach of contracts or loan agreement. Okay, mga related party transactions that we will be discussing in the related party disclosures, no, in another video presentation. Okay, some transfer levels of fair value Okay, changes in the classifications, and also changes in contingent liabilities. So contingent liabilities are actually not yet liabilities now, since they do not meet the requirement under IAS number 37 to be presented in the face of the financial statement. So they are just being subjected to the notes. Okay. So those are some required disclosures. Now, there are also other disclosures that we can write in our notes, no, such as the accounting policies. But take note that there should be a statement, no. Sabi dito sa first bullet, there should be a statement that the same accounting policies and methods that we used in our interim financial reports, okay, as compared with the annual, are almost the same, no? And also, kung ano man yung ginagamit natin na accounting policies in interim, we should also put that in our disclosures. Okay? Also, some explanatory comments about seasonality and cyclicality of interim periods, kasi nabanggit ko nga po kanina, there would be somehow shoot up sa mga values ninyo, such as sales and expenses during those seasonal periods, no, that you are expecting that your business will be prospering, no. So you need to put an explanation on that as well regarding the seasonality. Okay, also the nature and amount, okay, of items affecting the elements, no, that are unusual because of the nature, size, and incidences. Now, in some cases lang that it is unusual, no, and also the nature and amount of changes in estimates natin reported in the prior interim periods. Kasi most likely interim periods, no, mababanggit natin mamaya, would be using some sort of more on estimates, no, kasi um, estimates would be applicable or more available for us rather than the actual amount per se pa. Okay, so if there will be change in estimates, then ayun po, we need to disclose as well the nature and the amount of changes in our disclosure. Okay, so moreover, the issuance, repurchase, and repayments of debt and equity securities that you will be discussing in intermediate accounting 2. Okay, so will also be disclosed. No, the dividend payments, the segment revenue and segment results. No, wherein later, hindi pala later, no. On the next video presentation, no, about operating segments under IFRS number 8. No, so we will be discussing that. Okay, then we have also the events after the interim period, no, that are not reflected in our financial statements. The changes in composition of entity during the period, no, including business combination, losing of controls. So whatever is happening in terms of the company's investments and discontinued operations, okay, in the overall structure of the company may also be disclosed if there are effects, no, in, of course, in our financials, and it is also necessary for the users to understand those changes. Okay, and for entities becoming and ceasing to be investment entities. Okay, so those are um, other disclosures natin aside from the required disclosures kanina. Okay. Here are also another disclosure pa, but this is a disclosure of compliance with the IFRS. Take note that just like in the annual financial statement, okay, our interim financial report needs also to disclose the fact that our interim financial report is compliance with IAS number 34. No? So an interim financial report should not, no, describe the compliance with such IFRS if it does not comply all of the requirements. Kagaya sa annual, di ba, ang sabi natin, mag-disclose ka ng statement. Pinakita ko pa sa inyo yon in the discussion that, okay, there is a disclosure in the financial statements accepting that that financial statement was being prepared in accordance with the IAS number 1. So ganun din dito sa IAS number 34, okay, it should disclose the fact plus it should comply to all requirements of the IFRS. Okay? So right now, we need to discuss as well that our accounting policies, as mentioned a while ago, okay, are similar to the annual. no? Even though it's interim. So an entity shall apply the same accounting policies in the interim financial statements as if they are being applied in the annual, except no, just in case that there will be changes in accounting policies after the most recent annual financial statement. So let's say for example, no, a new standard was being brought, no, in the current year, naging effective siya as the start after the preparation of the most recent financial statements, then we will apply already the um, financial, I mean the policy, no? Okay, on the next annual financial statement. We will not change anymore dun sa retrospectively. Okay? And then the frequency of the reporting natin, whether annual, half year, or quarterly, shall not be affected. Okay? Shall not affect the measurement of its annual result. Kasi sa annual result in general, it's good for 1 year, no? But in the interim, of course, our frequency of reporting should not affect the measurement basis for the annual. Okay? Pero same pa rin naman sila na measurement basis. Yun nga lang talaga, there would just be differences as to the coverage period malamang. Okay? And also, to achieve that objective, measurement of interim financial reporting shall be made on a year-to-date basis. Kaya kanina napansin ninyo in the example condensed set, di ba? Puros year-to-date yung values natin since, again, to achieve the objective of this same accounting policies, no, we need the year-to-date basis value. Kasi ang hirap mag-compare eh. Halimbawa, yung ginawa natin na January to March yan. 'Di ba? Halimbawa, profit or loss. January to March 31. Kung ito 2020 tapos i-compared mo siya, let's say for example to another quarter, let's say October up to December. So hindi na sila comparable, 'di ba? Kaya mas maganda na year to date from January up to March, January up to March, since they have the same period covered at the same time yung mga similar transactions that would happen in that quarter, okay, would be used for comparability purposes. Okay? So ayan, same accounting policies as the annual. So let's talk about the revenues received seasonally or cyclically or even occasionally, no, that we can consider in the interim reports. So take note guys that our revenues, okay, in accordance with the conceptual framework, accrual basis natin, diba? So revenues should be recognized or reported once they are earned. Okay, so same as annual, no, that we will recognize or record it once they are earned during the interim periods where they occurred. Okay, so revenues that were being received in seasonally or being cyclically or occasionally within a financial year should not be, take note of this, revenues should not be anticipated or deferred, okay, as of the interim period if, okay, anticipation or deferral would not be appropriate at the end of the year. What is appropriate po kasi is to record it at the period when it is being earned. Okay, so we do not anticipate or defer for it, no? Also, the principles natin are falling, okay, example lang po, no, nung ating mga cyclical na mga or even occasional na revenues are somehow dividend revenue, 'di ba? Kasi at some period of time lang 'yan, even royalties kasi yung royalties would be given on a specific period, no? And also some government grants, okay, that you will also discuss in PPE, no, possible, okay, and that is in accordance with IAS number 20, no, accounting for government grants. Okay, so some entities consistently earn more revenues in a certain interim periods, baka doon kasi nag-shoot up yung kanilang mga sales, no, okay, than the other interim periods, no. For example, seasonal revenues of retailers. Yun, kagaya kanina, mga products within summer, then malamang mag-shoot up yun in summer. Okay, pang winter, winter. Akala mo may winter sa Philippines na walang winter, na December lang. Ano lang, amihan season. So, ayun, there would be some sort of shoot up na mag-occur or mag-i-increase yung kanilang sales, no? Or even the revenues. And such revenues are recognized when they occur. Okay? So, walang halos pinagbago whether it's seasonal or the regular na revenue natin, we will recognize it once it is earned. All right? So, again, if you have questions, please let me know lang po. Okay. So in terms of costs and expenses naman po natin, okay, so some costs that were being incurred, no, unevenly during a financial year shall be anticipated and deferred for interim reporting periods if and only if, no, it is appropriate to anticipate or defer them, that they are type of costs at the end of the financial year. So remember again, guys, that in the concept of accrual basis, no, expenses are recognized once they are incurred. Okay, not necessarily meaning that the cash is paid, but rather once the um, item was expired, or even the expense item was being used, no, in the operations po natin. So in terms of this, no, we anticipated or deferred expenses if they are again uh, anticipated and deferred in terms of the annual. Okay, so typical example po niyan, let's say for example, would be some sort of ano ba, salaries. Okay, sorry, not salaries, no, advertising for example. Okay, advertising. So we paid for it. Okay, so um, but ayun po, no, take note that again, these expenditures, okay, needs to be anticipated or deferred in the annual reporting so that it could be anticipated in the interim. Pag hindi po siya in-anticipate in the annual, then most likely it should not also be anticipated in the interim reporting. Okay? So also, the companies na in terms of their inventories, okay, are using yung mga estimation methods. I don't know if you are done it with it already, but in IAS number 2, there would be inventory estimations wherein we use them in the interim reports, such as gross profit or even retail method, no? Okay, in computing for our cost of goods sold. So take note, guys, that this inventory estimation, similar with the IAS number 2's discussion, should only be used in the interim periods. No? Kasi in the actual natin in the cost of goods sold for the annual, it should be the real amount or the actual amount, not based on estimates natin for the cost of goods sold. Okay? So take note of that, that inventory estimation are only applicable for interim periods. Okay? So you will learn more about gross profit and retail method in your um, intermediate accounting subject. Also, in recognizing the losses such as mga inventory write-downs, mga restructuring and impairment, no, they are just similar to what is being used in the annual. Okay, so I cannot discuss one by one yung sa write-down ng inventory, restructuring, and impairment here, but similar to what you will be learning in the intermediate accounting for the annual, okay, will be applied to the interim. Also, ito, mamaya we will have an example of it, no, about income taxes, no, wherein income taxes are recognized at each interim period based on the best estimate of the weighted average annual tax rate expected for the full financial year. Okay? And then bonus is anticipated, okay, and recognized in the interim reporting. So yun pala, yun yung kanina that we are allowed to anticipate, let's say bonus, if no, the bonus is a legal obligation or uh, being estimated reliably. Okay? So, pwede kasi na in an annual basis, di ba, we have bonuses, but we can also anticipate that already in the interim. Kasi baka tapos na po yung period coverage, let's say quarter, no, tapos na yung quarter na yun, and the bonus in the annual naman is, kumbaga, based naman din dun sa work being done by the employees, then we can anticipate already immediately the bonus payable natin in that particular interim period. Okay? In addition, okay, some depreciations or the depreciation and amortization for an interim period shall be based only on the asset owned during the interim period. So we will not spread anything, no, na hindi pa po talaga na i-record as asset in the interim period. No? In the annual, okay, it will be spread out over the periods it was being used. But again, whatever depreciation or amortization, no, should only be related to the asset owned in the interim periods. Moreover, the assets acquisitions and disposal, okay, planned for later the year should not be taken off into account. So, pag nag-dispose ka in the next periods pa after the interim period na ginagawaan mo, no, wag mo siyang i-record ngayon, no, kasi as of that interim period, still asset mo pa rin siya, hindi mo pa siya dinispose, or baka kung hindi mo pa nabibili, then it should not be recorded as asset. Okay, so I hope that that is clear. Also, some paid vacation and holiday leaves. Okay, so vacation and holiday leave, so this will be discussed further sa inyong employee benefits under IAS number 19. Okay, shall be accrued for the interim period purposes now because they are enforceable as legal commitment. Okay, so ayun po, no, mga holiday leaves natin should be accrued. And then some gain and or losses from disposal of properties, no, or even the discontinued operations that we have mentioned already there shall not be allocated over interim periods. Remember, any revenues kanina should be recognized at the interim period when it occurs. So just in case that there would be gains and losses, no, related to discontinued operations, do not allocate it. So pag nakakita po kayo ng gains and losses about disposal of properties, recognize them at the period when they occurred. No? Huwag nyo pong spread. So halimbawa, let's say March, no, 31. Okay? Meron nagbenta ka ng discontinued operations and you have a gain, a loss or even a gain of 500,000 for example. So it should be recorded on the interim periods covered by March 31. So wag mo i-divide by 12 yan, kung monthly, or divide by 4. Wag ganun, Mars. Okay? Kasi we should not allocate them over the interim periods. Okay? Are we clear on that, guys? All right, very good. Okay. So kanina na-mention ko that interim reporting are usually using, no, estimates. And in accordance with IAS number 34, paragraph number 41, when measurements in both annual and interim financial reports are open based on reasonable estimates naman, okay, the preparation of the interim financial report will require greater use of estimation methods rather than the annual financial. Kasi as mentioned to you kanina, no, in the annual, it's more on the actual data. Okay, kasi we have already the actual data. Comparing it with the interim, that we'll try only to use estimates kasi we do not have yet the available actual data that needs to be spread out over the interim periods, no? Kagaya no kaninang discussion natin ng cost of goods sold, di ba? So we usually use estimates in inventory estimation methods, okay, rather than the actual cost of goods sold. Okay? So are we clear on this? Okay? So patapos na po tayo before we proceed with some examples. Okay? So we talk about, no, the last part of the standard, no, the restatement of previously reported interim periods, kasi 'di ba there may be changes in the current interim period, okay, that was not occurring in the previous interim periods. That's why we need to restate it. Now a change in accounting policy other than one transition, okay, is specified by a new IFRS shall be reflected, kasi yung transition ng new IFRS, guys, remember it is applied usually at the start of the year, no? Okay? Just like IFRS number 15, no, naging effective siya January 1, 2018. Tapos yung leases naman na IFRS 16, it was being effective January 1, 2019. So other than transition of specified new IFRS, any change in the accounting policy should restate. Okay, so ang gagawin natin, we restate the prior interim periods, no, of the current financial year and the comparable interim periods of any prior financial year that will be restated in accordance with IAS number 8. So IAS number 8 is entitled Accounting Policies, Change in Accounting Estimates and Errors, no? So that's governing the changes in accounting policies. Again, restating, meaning we are reflecting the change in the accounting policy, okay, other than the standards. Okay? Para maging comparable siya. Kasi pag hindi mo ni-restate yung periods na yon, halimbawa, ang ni-restate mo lang is yung current na interim period, then, I mean, hindi siya comparable, 'di ba? Kasi they have different bases. Okay? So ayun ha. We need to restate the prior interim periods na under the current financial year at saka yung prior financial year. Moreover, no, when impracticable, okay, to determine the cumulative effect at the beginning of the financial year, applying the new accounting policy to all prior period. Okay, so adjusting the financial statements of the prior interim periods of the current financial year and comparable financial should be, no, applied prospectively from the earliest date practicable. So, ayun po, may mga some cases kasi na impractical na po mag-restate. Kasi baka super daming i-restate, no, in the previous period. So, what we will do, no, is, again, sabi dito sa second bullet, okay, determine na lang yung cumulative effect nun on the beginning of the financial year, applying the new policy, okay, and then, it would be applied prospectively, okay, from the earliest date practicable na lang. Okay, so we will not do it specifically comparable financial information per year to date, no, interim period, but we will just do it again from the beginning of the year, so as if we are just getting already the cumulative from the start up to the beginning of that financial year and then applying it prospectively. Okay? So, ayan. It will be more discussed to you under IAS number 8 naman po. Okay? And also, you will study that in your individual assets and liabilities, no, as you discuss their effects if there would be changes in accounting policies. Okay? So, again, any questions? Wala naman? Okay. Sige. So, right now, let me just discuss additional topic about interim reporting, which is not found in the standard. Okay, but there are views, no, in terms of interim financial reporting. So we have the integral view. At pag sinabi po natin integral view, okay, which is also discussed kanina pero hindi naman nabanggit to sa standard, no, that annual operating expenses po natin are being estimated and then allocated to the interim periods based on forecasted revenue or sales volume. So meaning the annual operating expenses that we have, okay, that was being estimated can be spread out over the interim periods natin. Kaya siya integral view kasi overall, no, the interim periods are considered as integral part of the annual reports. Okay. Moreover, no, the cost incurred which clearly benefits the entire year are allocated to the interim periods based on the forecasted revenue and sales volume ulit. Okay, so ayun, no, pag whole year yung benefit, then allocate it. Okay, just like yung mga diniscuss natin in basic accounting na prepaid expenses or even in the review, di ba? Mga prepaid expenses natin, we can allocate it over the period for the expenditures incurred during the year. Okay, then when this approach is followed, the result of subsequent interim periods must be adjusted to reflect the prior estimation errors. So, ayun po, no, just in case na meron tayong um, estimation na kumbaga erroneous or kailangan i-update, then it should be reflected or adjusted in the subsequent interim periods. Okay? So also, aside from the integral view, we can found also what we so-called independent view. Okay, so pag sinabi po natin independent view, each of the interim period is considered as discrete and separate accounting period, okay, with equal status. Kanina, yung integral view, the interim reports are part of the annual. Ito nga yung independent, sinasabi niya na discrete and separate daw yung accounting period ng interim comparing it with the annual kasi it's just a separate and distinct discrete, no? And considering it, no estimations or allocations are to be made for purpose of interim reporting. Kanina in the integral view, we can use estimates, 'di ba? Pero dito sa independent view, we should not make estimates, no, unless such estimation or allocation are allowed for interim reporting, no, similar to the expenses that the rule apply as under annual reporting, and no special interim accruals or deferrals are permitted. So that's in the independent view. So in other words, any annual operating expenses natin are recognized in the interim period as they have been incurred. Kanina spread out natin, di ba, yung estimates, irrespective of the number of interim periods benefited unless deferrals or accruals will be allowed in the annual financial. So actually, no, contrasting yung independent at saka integral view. But take note, guys, that combination of these two, okay, will be applied in the interim financial reporting. Okay, so hindi lang po siya iisang view talaga, but rather these two views, integral and independent, will be a mixture, no, for the interim financial reporting. May mga items kasi in our interim financial report which needs estimation, as mentioned to you kanina in the previous slides, no, estimation that it will be spread out over the interim periods, no, but also there would be cases na it will be based on actual. Okay? Are we clear on that? So mixed to ha, hindi ibig sabihin na diniscuss ko to isa lang sa kanila. These are the views, no, and mixture of it will be applied in the interim financial reporting. Okay? So I hope that you have already understand this. Any questions or clarifications, please let me know on our respective chat boxes. Okay, so right now let's proceed with examples, no? Okay, some examples that um, are related to interim financial reporting discussion po natin. Okay, so let's start with example number 1. Okay, so I read first the question. No? Ang sabi po, what should be the sales commission expense of Spaghetti Corporation, okay, reported in the second quarter interim financial statements? Okay, so again, sales commission expense, okay, for the second quarter. Okay, so it's an interim sales commission expense ang tinatanong. So let's read the data. Okay, so Spaghetti Corporation prepares quarterly interim financial reports. The company sells its product through a sales agent that paid a fixed amount of monthly salary and commission of 8%. So ito po yung original commission, no, 8% that is paid at year end. Okay, so sales for the first quarter is 50 million. However, no, in the second quarter, the employees union management negotiated that the agent's commission should be 12%. So nung second quarter, nire-request na nila na 12% and be applied from the beginning of the current year. So meaning parang in the first quarter, it was being assumed 8% kasi yun po yung sinimulan nila, 8%, okay, for the commissions. But again, going to the second quarter, then what happened is it's becoming 12% already. So what will happen later, no, in the commission expense? So let's find out. Okay, so sales in the second quarter is 60 million. Okay, so in the first quarter, tignan muna natin yung first quarter bago tayo tumungo sa second quarter. So in the first quarter, since we have 50 million sales there, it is already important for us to really record the sales commission expense related to that quarter, no, which is the 8%. Kasi independent naman yan, di ba? Na quarter. Okay, so that would be 50 million times 8%. Magkano po yan? Saglit, calculator. 50 million times 8%. So that's 4 million. Okay, so in the first quarter, we have already 4 million as our commission expense. But again, sabi po, yung 12% daw will be applied from the beginning. So supposed to be, na i-record na yan eh, hindi na natin magagalaw yung first quarter kasi it was being reported at 4 million. So what we can do is to adjust na lang yung sales commission expense in the second quarter to catch up with the changes in the percentage. So here's what I'm going to do here. No? So for the current second quarter, we have 60 million sales. Okay, and then multiplied it with the 12%, which is the new rate, okay, then that would be already 7,200,000. That is only related to the second quarter. So kung wala sanang naging changes, okay, it should be 8% of the 60 million. Pero dahil nagkaroon ng change, then we use already 12%. No? And then, what will happen, since in the first quarter, 4 million lang yung na-record natin, and if we are going to pay it already at year-end, as mentioned here, no, magbabayad tayo ng 12%. So what you need to do is to update already right now, no, yung balance. So what happened there is yung 50 million na sales in the first quarter, we multiply it with the change, no? 'Di ba 12% yung bago tapos 8% natin siya na record dati. So yung increase na yon, we will reflect it now on the second quarter. Again, we could not reflect it already in the first quarter kasi malamang baka na-submit na yung report. Okay, so the changes will now be happening here in the second quarter, and then disclose na lang natin na nagkaroon ng change in terms of the percentage as mentioned kanina in the disclosures natin, di ba? So 4% change times 50 million. So there is an additional expense in the second quarter which relates to the first quarter commission, no, na 2 million. So overall, the answer for the sales commissions, no, for the second quarter of Spaghetti Corporation is 9,200,000 already. Okay? So ganun po yun ha. We reflect the changes based din sa theory natin kanina. Okay? So any questions or clarifications? Violent reactions, all right, please let me know on our chat box. Okay, so this is our first example, no, related to a sales commission expense. Again, we already anticipate, no, the commissions expense since it is related naman po to the expenses being incurred during the current quarter. Okay, so again, for any questions, please let me know po sa ating chat box. Okay. So let's proceed with example number 2 naman. Okay? So in example number 2, the question was how much is the total expense should be included in the quarterly financial report ending March 31, 2021. Okay? So magkano daw yung total expense? Let's see kung ano ba yung component ng expense na to. Adobo Corporation or Adobo Company operates in the travel industry and incurs costs unevenly throughout the financial year. So kanina we have discussed about unevenly, no? So we have advertising costs of 4 million were incurred in March 1, and staff bonuses are being paid at year end based on sales. Okay, so advertising at saka sales staff or the staff bonuses, no? Dalawang expense items. So the staff bonuses expected around 40 million for the year. So 40 million daw in annual, but of some 6 million would be related to March 31. So meaning for the quarterly financial reports, no, what we need to get would be of course the advertising cost of 4 million. So aren't we going to spread out over the year, no? Actually hindi na kasi sinabi incurred. At the same time, we are not sure if up to how many periods it will be benefiting. So immediately recognize the advertising costs. And then as to staff bonuses, no, we will not divide 40 million by 4, but rather ang sinabi kasi 6 million lang would be related to March 31. Kaya we will just get the 6 million. So overall, the total expenses would be based on the incurred advertising costs and the sum of 6 million which relates to the first quarter for the bonuses. Okay, that's why the total natin na expenses to be included in the quarterly reports would be 10 million. Okay, so are we clear on that? Okay. Sir, paano kung nawala po yung nawala po yung 6 million na bonuses? What shall we do? Just in case lang, no, na nawala po yung sentence na of sum 6 million, ang gagawin mo sa staff bonuses would be 40 million divided by 4. Bakit? Kasi we have 4 quarters. So it is presumed na equal per interim quarters. Interim quarters, per quarter yung ating expense. Okay? Pero dito kasi we have identified specifically that it's 6 million lang. Kaya yun lang ginamit natin. Okay? So naging 10 million sana yun kung wala yung 6 million na actual. Kasi we will spread that out. Okay? So are we clear on that? All right, very good. Sige, so that's example number 2. Next, no? Example number 3. Now let's talk about naman po bad debts. So tanong po niya is what amount should be recognized as bad debts expense for the fourth quarter? So bad debts expense lang related to the fourth quarter. So let's read. CSIG Corporation has historically reported bad debts expense of 5% of sales. So naka-base tayo on sales ha. It's not based on outstanding receivable balance, no, but rather based on sales. Now, for the current year, the entity followed the same procedures in the 3 quarters of the year. However, in the fourth quarter, the entity determined that the bad debts expense should be 450,000. So, ito po, no, the entity have determined already na 450,000 yung ating bad debts expense, no? So, sales for each of the quarter are as follows. Remember that the basis of our bad debts is the sales, no? So supposed to be for the fourth quarter, we have already 450,000, no? But take note that we need to consider kung tama ba yun. Pag inad ko lahat from the first up to the third quarter, okay, estimating it, okay, with the fourth quarter, dapat ba ito ay 450,000? So ang nangyari po is yung difference, no, from what was being recognized already from um, the first, second, and third quarters, no, will be estimated by 5%, and then deduct natin yun sa 450, and any increase na lang po, okay, or difference would be charged to the fourth quarter balance natin. Okay, kasi at year end, malamang it would be 450,000 na bad debts expense po natin. Okay, so here's our computation. So the bad debts expense for the year, okay, it was determined that the bad debts expense is 450,000. Okay, sorry, I forgot to emphasize that this 450,000 is for the entire year, ha. Okay, na-delete ko ata siya dun sa kanina. Okay, so wag kayong magulat na nagbago siya. It should be for the entire year, yung 450,000. Kaya the bad debts expense for the year is 450,000, no? And then deduct natin yung mga na-recognize na per first three quarters. So for the first quarter, you have 2 million times 5%, which is 100,000. So sa second quarter, you have 1,500,000 times 5%, so that's 75,000. And for the third quarter, you have 125,000. So all in the previous three quarters, we have 300,000 already, no, na bad debts expense. And they have estimated that the bad debts expense or computed for the year is 450,000. That's why any increase na lang po will be attributed to our fourth quarter, and that would be 150,000. Okay? So ganun po 'yon, no? Whatever you have recognized previously, hindi na natin pwedeng maggalaw. So it would be applied prospectively on the next interim period. Okay? So ayun po. The answer here is 150,000. Okay? So again, any questions or clarifications? None? Okay, so that's our example number 3. Next, no? Example number 4. Now let's talk about naman tax. Kanina nabanggit ko to in our discussion about tax, no? Wherein we will be using the tax rate, no, on the period. Okay, covered. Okay, and ano ba yung sabi natin? It should be recognized in each interim period based on the best estimate of the weighted average annual income tax rate natin. Okay, so dito po ang nangyari, Samgyeopsal, okay, a year-end entity company, okay, had the following income before tax provision and effective annual tax rate for the first three quarters of 2020. Okay, so what is the income tax provision in the interim financial statement for the third quarter? Okay, so by the way guys, sa Philippines naman po, hindi to nangyayari kasi the effectivity of the tax rate change would happen, no, at the start of the year. So don't worry, in actual hindi to mangyari. Let's just try to discuss it based on the concept used in IAS number 34. Okay, so in the first quarter you have 3 million and then 30% siya. Sa second quarter naka 30% pa rin po tayo. Okay, but in the fourth quarter we will have 25% na lang, so bumaba. So how much daw is the tax provision in the third quarter? Supposed to be, kung hindi po nagbago yung tax rate sana, it should only be 4 million times 25%, 30%, no? Kung hindi sana nagbago. So that will be equal to 1,200,000 lang sana. Unfortunately, no, we will be using already 25% in effect. So what we need to do there is again, no, compute, no, cumulatively the tax, no, for the first three quarters based na po sa updated na ano natin, tax rate. So which is 25%. Okay, multiplying it with the income before tax na 10,500,000. Sir, saan nakuha yun? Just simply add the first, second, and third quarter na income before tax. So that would be 10,500,000. Okay? So parang overall perspective na naman ulit tayo. So updating the tax rate, supposed to be our tax provision is 2,625,000 lang. But in the third quarter, on the three quarters, but in the first quarter, you have already recognized 900,000. And in the second quarter, nakapag-recognize ka na po ng 1,050,000. So yung third quarter income tax provisions na lang po natin is 675,000. So see the difference, no? Kung original rate tayo na 30%, 1,200,000, or even kahit i-multiplied mo pa yon by 25%, no, hindi rin siya equal sa 675,000 since we are considering updating the income tax rate also that were being applied in the previous first two quarters. Kasi cumulative effect naman po yan. Diba? So annual tax rates natin malamang would fall under 25% na. Okay? So again, the income tax provision is 675,000. Okay? So again, if you have questions, please let me know lang po. And finally, okay, let's have example number 5. Okay, so here, no, we are asked to prepare a profit or loss section of the statement of comprehensive income for the month of November. Okay, so the following are cumulative data which were taken from the record of Shanghai Incorporated. So as you can see, there are cumulative data from year to date to, diba? From January up to October 31 and January up to November 30. So supposed to be, okay, cumulative data to. Pero remember, we are being asked only for the month. Okay? For the month lang. So dapat we will be preparing not cumulative data, but rather we should prepare for the month only. So what you need to do is to compare the ending balance cumulative ng October at saka ng November. Then the changes will be our for the month of November. Okay? So that's for sales. Okay? Now, as to inventories, we will try to recompute that later. Okay? And then for the others, no, such as the expenses, selling, and administrative, yung increase lang po. Okay? So, let's see. So, ito po, no? So, for our net sales, no, it is 239,100, which is the difference from the cumulative sales ng October and the cumulative sales up to November. Okay? So try nyo i-deduct yan, it would be 239,100. Now, as to cost of goods sold, since we are talking about November, okay, yung kanyang beginning balance should be the ending balance estimated dito sa October 31. Di ba ganun kasi mag-compute, no? Yung ending as of October, okay, it would be the beginning supposed to be, kaya naging 280 to. And then our purchases will come from the difference of the purchases cumulative as of October 31 and the cumulative as of November 30. Okay, try nyo. 1,135,000 less 920,000, that is equal to 215,000. Okay, so by adding the beginning na 280 and then the purchases, okay, that would be the cost of goods available for sale. Okay, and then by the way, baka may nagtatanong, sir, bakit ganun? December 31 nakalagay dito. Oo, December 31 siya, supposed to be. Pero dahil nga October pa lang to, so yung balance na 280 na to is only up to October lang muna. Okay? So are we clear on that? Kaya yun yung ginamit natin na beginning ng November. Okay, so after computing the goods available for sale, we get the inventory on November 30, which is 372,600. That's why our cost of goods sold is 122,400. So our net sales minus the cost of goods sold, then we have a gross profit of 116,700. Then as to selling expenses na mention ko na kanina, that you check for the increase. So the November 30 cumulative selling expense is 197,200, while the cumulative as of October 31 is 142,500. So deduct that, that would be equal to 54,700 related only to November. And then for the admin expense ng November, again increase then from 72 from the 72,000 and 53,000 difference. Okay, that is equal to 19,000 and the net profit is 43,000 po. So which is actually, kung i-check mo, 142 minus the 99,000 na previous, then that is also 43,000. Okay, so nagkaroon lang ng changes inside dahil doon sa ating inventory. Kasi dito kung ito kukunin mo, then it would not be the same. Tama rin, no? Parehas din ata. Pag dinidak mo yung 1,062,400 at saka 940,000, same din naman sila. Pero we just want to reflect the actual computation of cost of goods sold here. Okay? So yan, that is only for the month ended November 30. I hope na nagets po ninyo ha. Ngayon, kung may questions po kayo, please let me know po on our respective chat boxes. Okay? So I hope that I have explained to you the concept of IAS number 34 and you have learned from our examples. Okay? So again, if you have questions, please let me know lang po sa chat box natin. Okay? So I'll just see you all on our next video. Okay? So thank you very much for listening. No? Have a great day and God bless. No? Kamsahamnida. Bye-bye.